Welcome to Kate Nicholls, the CEO of UKHospitality. Thank you very much, Kate, for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be able to join you at your annual conference. And I think one of the strengths that's come out of COVID is that there's more collaboration across sectors. So I'm delighted that this starts the year where we have a lot of big issues to deal with, where we can work collaboratively together.
I totally agree. And your industry, like much of the advertising industry, has been very, very hard hit by the pandemic. Now, we've just heard from the Secretary of State and the government's proposals to ban or further restrict Hfss food advertising online, to impose a 9 p.m. watch on TV and to further restrict promotions, I know are of huge concern to both our industries. Is your sector being heard by the government on this? And what is the impact of a potential ban on your sector if this does come into effect?
Well, I think you're absolutely right that COVID has absolutely devastated the hospitality sector. We've lost over 50–60% of our sales over the course of 2020. We were the first into restrictions. We were the first impacted by the virus. We will be last out. So government is well aware that this is an industry that is in a fragile state. We haven't got much management bandwidth at the moment. Resilience is low. Cash reserves are low. So the government is listening to us. I question whether government is really hearing and understanding us. And when we're in the middle of a crisis of survivability, I think the government's focus is on getting hospitality through this. And the obesity and the Hfss consultations are almost pushed to one side when we're talking to central government departments. I think there's a very real danger that therefore you've got a public health agenda that is running through and consultations that are running through without much direct reference to what is happening strategically and across the economy, and with no real connect between the state that the industry is in and the timing of those consultations. So we were particularly concerned that the government pressed ahead with consultations while the industry was in lockdown, while key staff were furloughed. We had a second consultation showing they didn't learn the lessons from the first, doing exactly the same thing in the middle of Christmas as we were about to enter our third lockdown. So I think there's a difference between listening, hearing and understanding the industry message about how inappropriate it is to be able to respond to a consultation at this time when we've got most of our key staff and head office staff furloughed, all of the industry closed, and limited ability to be able to respond in any meaningful way to a consultation which is arbitrarily cut short and unnecessarily brought forward.
I totally agree, and the timing of it just felt like a ridiculous imposition at this particular moment. The fact it was only 6 weeks, in effect, doubled up the pressure because it's half the normal length of a consultation. And although they're talking about the measures not coming until 2022, these are the economy will hopefully be recovering by then. But we've taken the biggest economic hit that we've ever had as an economy. So to think about restrictions like that at that time just feels completely tone deaf almost.
I think you're right. There is an element of tin-eared, as I say. When you've got hospitality actually physically closed, there is a practical issue of how do you work through and understand what is a very detailed technical consultation that requires legal understanding, advertising and marketing expertise, nutritional expertise, and operational expertise when all of those key staff are furloughed. And as you say, the economy might be recovering, but hospitality is not forecast to recover until 2023, 2024. Now is not the time when an industry that has gone through so many traumatic upheavals over the last year has resilience at such a low level where you are still forecasting 1 million job losses, a third of businesses closing, and only 1 in 5 with sufficient cash to be able to get them through to February, to think about tackling something as important as this, which would have a major operational impact when we come out the other side, at a time when industry is closed and the public health agenda is all focused on rightly tackling a pandemic, seems odd to say the least.
It does seem odd, and I think the point about the impact on an industry that's already been really adversely hit just seems crazy. But particularly, if this was going to achieve something significant in terms of tackling obesity, you'd say at least there's a significant trade-off in terms of public health. When you looked at even the government's own evidence note, it was about between 2 and 3 calories a day, an utterly trivial outcome for so much economic damage. And I think to bring that to life, perhaps, obviously in your sector, there's a lot of SMEs. Perhaps talk about what the impact of this might be like for, a small restaurateur or cafe.
Well, I think that there's two impacts. So there's the first bit about the advertising restrictions, which are so widely drawn that it involves any online correspondence, online marketing. So many of our businesses over the course of COVID have obviously pivoted towards delivery, takeaway, online click and collect, which will inevitably form part of their future going forward. They have invested heavily in Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitter, where they communicate to their customers about the new menus, the new styles that they've got. The way in which the legislation is drafted means that those businesses cannot market to their local consumers by showing them a picture of fish and chips or burrata salad or a quiche or even a cheese board. So the limitations of what you can do when we are working in a very visual industry, and particularly with younger audiences, they are very food conscious, and it needs to look good on the plate. So they want to see images that look good on a plate. It's a key part of communicating to get them to come into the premises in due course. All of that would be banned and restricted. And for many of our members, it's just too complicated for them as SMEs to be able to work through what would and would not be allowed. So effectively, you've just cut off their online communication and marketing channel. And also, as we move forward through COVID, we've done online apps for payment and ordering and processing and looking at menus. Again, all of that is just thrown to one side by this consultation, which does not deliver any change in calories and obesity. And there are measures that could be taken that would deliver so much more benefit in terms of tackling obesity at the root cause, which is where I think there's a greater sense that we could collaborate together and work together as an industry as a whole to deliver really meaningful change for the government in this area.
And that's what I wanted to come on to, because that's very much our view, is that we as an industry, and your industry too, and the two working obviously very closely together, can be so much a part of positive change to people's lifestyles, to the way they eat, to how they eat, to the sort of foods that they choose. And what the government should be doing is engaging with industry to see about what we can do on the positive side, because those things will have a much more profound impact. And I'm sure your members could play a huge role in that.
Absolutely. I mean, what we need to be doing is equipping people to make positive choices, well-informed, good decisions about their health, nutrition, and their eating. And at the moment, we don't do that at any meaningful level. We have stripped out home economics, catering, nutrition from the school curriculum. People don't learn about food and food science in the way that they used to when I was at school, which gives you a grounding of what you should be doing and what healthy eating looks like. We don't educate and equip parents to be able to make informed decisions about cooking to help their children's nutritional growth. We've invested quite a lot in charitable schemes that take chefs into schools, that provide curriculum resources to build nutrition into lessons, to help children understand good eating and healthy eating and help them make those decisions. Working together across the advertising agencies and advertising association members, as well as the brand owners and marketeers, we could really help the government to drive forward a dynamic program of public education and information to really make a difference to people's lives, help them in their daily decisions, help them to adopt good practices of nutrition. And then that helps inform them when they go into my members' premises and make informed decisions about what they are going to eat, rather than something which is a very blunt instrument that just bans advertising, bans communications, bans online marketing. It doesn't address the root cause of the problem, which is education.
Absolutely. And I think in terms of thinking about this more broadly, we know our industry, the advertising industry, is a great accelerator of recovery. When recovery comes, obviously advertising is right at the sharp end of that, and helps businesses connect with their customers again and get people back out shopping or going into pubs and restaurants and so on. What are you looking for from government to help the recovery of the hospitality sector? Because in effect, we are here to serve sectors like yours. So the faster your sector recovers, the faster the advertising industry will recover. What are you looking for from government for that?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to be able to reopen those closed parts of the sector and get a route map for recovery and reopening from the government that looks at an exit strategy from restrictions that is mirrored towards the vaccine rollout. So that's a fundamental first step. And secondly, adding to the vaccines is the lateral flow testing within all of our businesses to allow the economy to start to reopen. In terms of recovery, hospitality has two challenges, really. It's going to come out of this crisis very heavily indebted, and it's going to come out of this crisis with very low cash reserves. As I said, just 1 in 5 of our businesses think they have sufficient cash to get them through to February. Now, that impacts on their ability to accelerate growth as soon as restrictions are lifted. So we need to have measures from government to improve and boost consumer confidence. And we need to repair damaged balance sheets in order to allow hospitality to bounce back. So we're calling on the government to extend the business rates holiday for our businesses and to extend the lower rate of VAT for eating and drinking out and accommodation to be able to support the recovery. And we know that if we have those two measures of support, hospitality will bounce back very quickly. We're one of the quicker sectors of the economy to recover. You can have restrictions lifted one day, people will go out the next, and on the third day you're returning cash to the exchequer and you're also boosting jobs. And after the financial crisis, we generated 1 in 6 of net new jobs and invested £10 billion in the high street. So we know that we've got that ability to recover and drive forward the economy and the economic recovery generally. And more important, we drag our supply chain with us. And that's not just the food and drink suppliers, but it's all the manufacturing businesses, the supply chain and the professional services, brand marketeers, advertisers and agencies that work with hospitality. So if we get hospitality started, if we get it supported so that it can be the engine of growth, then we have that supply chain working virtuously behind us.
And that's absolutely right. And I think that interconnectedness and interdependence is such a critical part of the recovery. And it's something that we've really seen through this crisis, just how complex and mutually interdependent our economy is.
Yes.
You know, our industry has been hit very, very hard because your industry has been hit very hard. Advertising serves every sector of the economy. So, you know, when one big significant part of the economy, like hospitality, is hit, then the whole advertising industry is hit too. So, absolutely, you want to be there as part of that recovery. And of course, advertising is a key engine of that recovery in terms of getting people out again. And we saw it even last summer in the Eat Out to Help Out, you know, heavily promoted and was very, very effective.
Yes, and effective not just in delivering feet into restaurants and bums on seats, but also in building that consumer confidence, getting people back out to the high street, communicating it with them in a very subtle way that it was safe and it was okay to go back out after a period of lockdown. And I think that the government is going to need that private sector skills base to do exactly the same trick when we come out of lockdown 3.
And I think if, you know, coming out of this, I hope government does listen to this. We will have a lot of people from government in the audience today, that actually we can be part of the recovery. We can be part as industries of a positive contribution to obesity. It's a much, much bigger problem than simple bans and advertising and marketing restrictions. There's so much more we can do together to both create and protect jobs and make a difference to the obesity crisis. And I hope that message is heard loud and clear, and I'm sure you would echo that message.
Absolutely. I think, you know, we can learn the lessons that we've developed over the consultation we've had on the National Food Strategy, but also the Citizens' Assembly on climate change and the approach the government has adopted to climate change, these big societal challenges that we have. How do we feed ourselves? How do we trade as an independent nation? And how do we tackle the climate change emergency? They've developed public-private partnerships. They've brought the industry together to work with government to deliver the solution, because we are a key part of the solution. We need that collaborative, cooperative approach taken forward into the debate about obesity and brought into the public health agenda. We can't have the industry sidelined from discussions about what is its future and how it can help to deliver. We need to be brought in and work in that way with government. So I would urge government to rebuild that relationship with industry that we had during some of the earlier discussions on the obesity strategy, so that we can drive forward together and make a real meaningful difference, because that's what industry wants. We want customers of the future that are happy, healthy and supported through our industries.
Okay, I would totally echo that, and I think your 1 in 6 jobs, advertising every pound spent generates £6 of GDP. So we're both great multipliers in the economy as industries, and I think one of the things that we've all appreciated is how much hospitality, in effect, has an impact on the overall economy. I think it was really been shown clearly because of the impacts on hospitality, really how important it is as part of the economy. And our overall GDP and our overall well-being and prosperity as an industry. So I think it's incredibly important that we both continue to talk to government about things that are going to work, both more widely in the economy, but particularly in tackling the challenges of obesity, where we both share the same concerns over the advertising and marketing restrictions that are being discussed at the moment. So Kate, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to hear from you. Good luck on behalf of everybody in advertising, to everybody in hospitality. We're looking forward to getting back into the pubs and restaurants of your members as soon as we possibly can. So thank you very much, Kate.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and we would be delighted to welcome you back as quickly as we possibly can, and hopefully next year we can host the conference in one of our superb hotels and conference venues.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed.